So, how does it feel when you play Roll Up to Win with Tim Hortons? Buy a hot or cold beverage using the Tim's app and find out. Roll in the app for a chance to win prizes ranging from free coffee and donuts to a Universal Orlando resort vacation or a sweet car. Oh, don't forget the TV. And this year, every roll is a shot at a $1,000 daily giveaway drawing for two $500 prizes. Roll up to win and get treated by Tim's. No purchase necessary. Account registration required. 50 U.S. and D.C. 18 plus entered by 4/2/23. See rules at rolluptowin.com for free entry or full details. Void in Florida and where prohibited.
Hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of Film Study. This is Ken McKusick. We're here to discuss a play that I would not call iconic in Ravens history, and yet it had a special meaning to our guest today that I want him to kind of explain and take you through, because I think it's a very interesting perspective. Joining me today, Kai Degner. Kai, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, love having you on, and always love meeting new people through this show. And this is a great opportunity. We'll talk about that at the end, how you can get in if you'd like to out there. But the play we're going to talk about is Courtney Upshaw's sack of Ben Roethlisberger, which happened in a Thursday night game in 2014. And the first question that comes to mind is, why is that special? To kind of take us through a little bit of the lead-in, Kai.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, it was my first Steelers game, Ravens Steelers game. And when you look at the season and you think about what games you want to go to, that's the one you want to go to, is week 2. And all summer long, you're looking forward to going to just a Ravens Steelers game. And it was on Thursday Night Football. So you're going to be a night game at home against the Steelers. That's what you want to be as a fan. You want to be in that spot. Meanwhile, and it's going to be on September 11th. So, it's going to have that special emotional component to commemorate that day. Meanwhile, the Ray Rice story had been developing along all this time. We knew in February of that year that, that he'd been arrested. And then there was an initial video that came out over the summer. He was suspended for 2 games. And all that had been trickling all the way through. It was really, a terrible situation. And then the video came out from inside the elevator that showed the assault, which was awful. And there was a media frenzy around how did the NFL handle it? Should Goodell resign? And then that trickled down into even 48 hours before the game, a 2-game suspension being switched to an indefinite suspension, and Steve Bisciotti issuing an apology for how the Ravens handled it. So all of a sudden, you're not only walking into a Ravens Steelers Thursday night week 2 game, you are part of the media narrative as a fan walking into the stadium. And the Ravens Steelers rivalry part was the last thing that was certainly on my mind walking into the stadium, where you kind of wonder if you should even be there as a fan. Is being there somehow tacitly supporting what has been acknowledged at this point by the NFL and Bisciotti is not a situation that had been handled well. And, it's September 11th, and you're just, it's really a surreal moment. One person over here is wearing a Ray Rice jersey, with a big X on it. Somebody over here is wearing the Ray Rice jersey sort of proudly, which was kind of obnoxious and not really what you want. So you just didn't really feel like you were walking into a football game at the time. So that's kind of the context for this, I'd say.
All right. I mean, that's obviously, that's quite a backdrop coming into this. And Courtney Upshaw is the protagonist of this play. Take us up to that a little bit in terms of the game and the situation and why you picked the play to start with.
Sure. So the game starts. Well, first of all, with any top plays, I was listening to the Bart Scott, episode in your series here. It just reminded me of this play. And who doesn't want to talk more about Ben Roethlisberger getting hit? It was the Steelers get the ball first, and it's still sort of an uneasy crowd situation. They don't get it very far on first and second down. It's third down. You have the normal cheering happening, and the play happens. Roethlisberger drops back. 3 Ravens linemen converge on him. You got Suggs on one side, McPhee on the other, somebody else coming up straight in the middle. And Roethlisberger looks like he's about to do his magic thing, and he ducks out to his right and has absolutely no protection as Upshaw just drills him. And from the stadium side, everybody's going wild because we thought we just forced a 3-and-out. And on the first drive with a big sack of Roethlisberger, everybody's going wild and is excited. And then Ed Hockley, head ref, gets on, the intercom and says, roughing the passer. And the stadium switches from, being ecstatic to more boos than I've ever been a part of. And it was that moment for me, a huge hit that being in the stadium, I was incensed, was called a roughing the passer. But it also seemed to put everybody in that stadium at the football game and remove them from, or me at least, from being part of this media narrative. Now we were just back. We were back in a Ravens-Steelers rivalry, and it was a game we had to win. We had lost the week 1 against the Bengals that season, and we had just lost our running back, obviously, for appropriate reasons, and we went on to win that game. I think 26-6. Flacco had a couple touchdowns, so that was that was a moment that stuck out to me that, again, isn't iconic in many ways. It's the sack that never was. Roethlisberger, I've seen, acknowledges this as the second hardest hit that he's taken, other than the Bart Scott hit.
Wow. Okay. I did not know that. Courtney Upshaw, who delivered the hit, is a player who should have known better. And that's kind of would be the words I would tag on Upshaw's entire career, is he should have known better. Career with the Ravens, 8 personal fouls and 5 sacks. He would add 2 more sacks when he was with, where was he, Atlanta or wherever his next stop was. Yes, Atlanta. But 8 personal fouls and 5 sacks is not the kind of ratio you want.
Absolutely not. And when preparing for this is the first time that I actually looked up the TV play. So there's a link where you can find it that has the TV coverage on it, and the commentator just immediately recognizes that it's roughing the passer and why. I mean, Upshaw took his helmet right into his chest. Now Harbaugh, in his interviews afterwards, Upshaw was fined $16,000 for this hit. Harbaugh says, I don't know how to coach him differently there. Basically, from Harbaugh's perspective, there is no other way for Upshaw to hit. So maybe some of that reputation had already been developing, and the ref was quick to run the flag. I'll tell you, I was on the end zone side of this, so I saw it from the back, and it just looked like the cleanest hit ever, and it did.
At Kroger, we want our fresh produce to meet your expectations, which is why we're dedicated to doing up to a 27-point inspection on our fruits and veggies, checking for things like scarring. In fact, only the best produce like zesty oranges and crisp carrots reach our shelves, because when it comes to fresh, our higher standards mean fresher produce. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Choose from a great selection of digital coupons and use them up to 5 times in one transaction. Check our app for details. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
So, how does it feel when you play Roll Up to Win with Tim Hortons? Buy a hot or cold beverage using the Tim's app and find out. Roll in the app for a chance to win prizes ranging from free coffee and donuts to a Universal Orlando resort vacation or a sweet car. Oh, don't forget the TV. And this year, every roll is a shot at a $1,000 daily giveaway drawing for 2 $500 prizes. Roll up to win and get treated by Tim's. No purchase necessary. Account registration required. 50 U.S. and D.C. 18 plus entered by 4/2/23. See rules at rolluptowin.com for free entry or full details. Void in Florida and where prohibited.
Life's better with a home policy from American Family Insurance, because you'll feel protected no matter how the wind blows. All so you can keep enjoying the home of your dreams. And our expert agents can help you save up to 23% when you bundle home with auto. Insure carefully, dream fearlessly. American Family Insurance. Get a quote? Find an agent at amfam.com.
Products not available in every state. Visit amfam.com to learn how discounts may apply to you. American Family Mutual Insurance Company, SI, and its operating company, 6000 American Parkway, Madison, Wisconsin.
That way for, the other 60,000 people in the stadium, for sure.
I mean, it was a play where he didn't go into Ben's chin with his helmet, but he definitely, it's almost like he lowered his helmet to avoid that. So it was more like what would have been in the 70s called a spearing penalty, that they wanted to avoid, obviously, in those terms. Upshaw either had to get his head up or turn to the side. It would have been difficult to do it and continue with the to take down Roethlisberger on the play. But heads up football, now that they teach the kids, that's what they're trying to do is avoid that helmet to helmet contact during tackling. I think if in this particular case, given his height and Ben's height, I think he would have come in right on the chin if he'd have tried to go in heads up. I don't think it would have changed anything in terms of the penalty call, because I think it would have ended up being a helmet to helmet hit. It might have ended up being a less severe hit, in which case, if you're taking the penalty, put Roethlisberger on the ground as hard as you can would be my advice. I mean, it's just in Harbaugh's case, I understand his frustration with it. He's very careful in terms of after the game, trying to avoid fines and avoid retaliation from the league for this part. And part of that is that he's on the competition committee. And I think he needs to be careful about what he says in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he acknowledged he wanted to be careful, but I think it was also, I mean, what else can you do? It wasn't at all helmet to helmet. If people can't picture it, I mean, his helmet goes, Roethlisberger dodges, his chest is, facing upfield, and he has nobody in front of him. And I mean, it happens so fast, and Upshaw is already running when Ben pops out and just hits him. So I think for me that emotional switch was part of this context. It was almost okay to be a football fan again in the stadium and of the Ravens, given all that really unfortunate context around it. So and I don't mean to take anything away from the bigger issue that was the Ray Rice story, but it definitely stood out to me, and in many ways, it's the sack that never was.
Yeah, I sense a level of social consciousness, and I don't want to go away from that, but I do want to turn back to the football side for a second here and just say that Upshaw, he had one big play for the Ravens in his career. It was the forced fumble in Super Bowl 47. After being drafted 35th overall. He's one of the classic Ravens trade downs into the top of the second round. Obviously, the pick did not work out the way the Ravens would have liked, but Upshaw did play all 64 of his games with the Ravens, was healthy the entire time, and that's something. Unfortunately, just not a real part of anything personally. His career was an underachievement. I will say on the play, watching it again and seeing McPhee did what he did on that team, that is classic McPhee driving the pass rush up the middle. Now, Suggs got a decent bull rush on that left side to push his man into Roethlisberger, which helped start the entire thing. McPhee is the incredible disruptor in the middle, basically setting up the wave of defenders to roll over Roethlisberger. And that's the way I remember him from that 2014 season, as being the guy who really drove the pass rush from the middle of that team that had Dumervil and Suggs on the outside. Dumervil actually got half the sack, or the half of the sack that wasn't.
Yeah, right. He must have been the one the third one that was at the top of the triangle that was converging on Roethlisberger. It ends up on that drive. It turns into a 14-play drive that the Steelers fumble on. That the Ravens then respond with a 15-play drive to go score a touchdown. So I don't remember a lot of 15-play drives in the Flacco days, but that was that's a pretty good drive.
Yeah, there was definitely more offensive variance. It wasn't a lot of staying ahead of the chains. You had more big plays and more runs for nothing during the Flacco era, to be sure. And Ray Rice never came back. I thought the odds were reasonable at that time that he might get another chance to play again, say, the following year. His marriage seemed to be going okay outwardly in terms of social media. I don't know what has since happened, if they're still together, or what may have happened in the intervening time. But she was very supportive and tried to support him in getting a second chance. And it just did not end up working out. Now, he'd not had a good 2013 season as a football player after signing a huge deal with the Ravens. And so this was the second year of his big contract, correct?
I don't remember those details myself.
Okay. All right, well, I believe that to be the case, and he was on the franchise tag. They signed a multi-year deal. It was about 5 years, $40 million, or 4 years, $40 million, in that range for that period. And it's one of the times the Ravens have really regretted signing a running back, both for the fact that his first season under contract was not particularly good, and then obviously for this happening and is going to make nothing good in terms of that. It's in a lot of ways the contract became sort of similar to Earl Thomas, in terms of some off-field issue really being the catalyst in the team having to get rid of a player. And really unfortunate. Ray Rice, I've met him once. It seems like a very nice young man. And really sad that this kind of thing just happened. And, just hope that he and his wife were able to get by it.
Yeah. Well, appreciate you opening up the possibility to talk about games or plays that are just that stick out in fans' minds. So I encourage other listeners that if you remember a play that isn't, in this case it was a penalty, reach out to you, and I know I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. Well,
thanks for coming on, Kai. Where can people talk football with you if they want to?
Sure, just at Kai Degner on Twitter, KAIDEGNER.
All right, outstanding. Other folks, Kai kind of did the promo for this already, but just hit me up with a DM on Twitter. They're always open. I'll get back to you very quickly. And the total time from idea to now we're recording, about how much time? About 10 days, maybe?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I just hit you up last week, and you gave me some times to schedule and sent me a link, and we're good to go.
Outstanding. It really is that easy, folks. And please don't have any microphone fears. You're in a safe space here in terms of the discussion. Kai, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll talk to you next time on Film Study.